Hi there, welcome once again to the Dukascopy TV studio here in Geneva. I'm Ben Jones. Alongside me from Black Pearl Capital is Bjorn Martenson. Bjorn, once again, thank you very much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
Not a problem. So, if we can begin by discussing investment in emerging markets in 2014 to that against investment in traditional markets, can you compare the two for us, especially looking at the Middle East and Asia versus Europe?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think generally sentiment-wise, Europe is still a bit apprehensive, still a little bit difficult to get liquidity or follow-up capital for investments that you have or the businesses themselves. Whereas in the emerging markets, specifically the Middle East, things are very buoyant. The macroeconomic fundamentals are very sound. There's strong growth in those markets. One of the things that we notice and that we look at in terms of the planning of these areas and why we're interested in the emerging markets is that the population growth in these areas is by far exceeding anything in Europe. So Europe, I think, is around 0.2% per annum, whereas Middle East is just under 2%. And if you add to that the factor of a very young population with a high percentage of under 30s that are going through a transition of better education systems, improving GDP per capita, we see a future of higher spending capacity individuals coming through these markets at strong growth rates.
Now, if we focus on the Middle East still, in terms of manufacturing, how much of an impact can this have? Obviously, we know Asia, Europe and USA have quite established manufacturing. So what's the situation with the Middle East?
Yeah, I think it's at an area where there could be, well, it's defining a new paradigm for the Middle East. If you look at the market now, tourism, the energy sector and trading are very well established. That's what people associate with the Middle East and what they're there to do business for. Manufacturing is still an unknown commodity. In our example, we own an oil and gas manufacturing firm that does engineering equipment, SEAM, and it sits in Ras Al Khaimah, in the middle of one of the more vacant emirates in the United Arab Emirates. And it's manufacturing high quality goods, but how do we sell that? How do we position that? We feel that we have a certain advantage in the Middle East with still some low-cost labor structures, but for us, we're trying to shift the paradigm ourselves and show that high quality goods of European standards or American standards can be built in the Middle East without suffering the consequences of reputational risks that you might have in some of the low-cost East Asian countries. So it'll be very interesting to see how it pans out and how the Middle East is able to establish that reputation, because it simply isn't there yet.
Okay, and what type of methods are you using to try and establish this reputation then?
It's mainly using, let's say, Western engineering and combining that with best practices of management and the skills that we can get locally, and then adapting that to how to implement systems that use a lower cost labor force that we do have in the base sector to achieve a performance in quality like Europe, but at a lower cost.
Okay, and finally, can you discuss some of the challenges that you're expecting for potentially the Middle East or emerging markets as a whole for the rest of 2014?
Yeah, I think it's for 2014 and making, speculation of where the markets are headed, it's not our main focus. We look at a business or an investment in any sector, and in the Middle East we're in real estate, we're in retail, entertainment and obviously oil and gas, as I mentioned. And we try and focus on our management team, the people we have. We focus on the market that we're servicing, and we focus on the liquidity and the financial strength of each investment. Now, those are in our control. If we manage those well, I can have a bullish outlook for the rest of 2014 and ride the wave and be happy with the performance of the Middle East. Or I know that I trust in these processes that if there is a bearish surprise or a bump in the road that people are expecting in some parts, we will be ready to tackle that challenge. So I think I'll leave the speculation to Bloomberg TV and these guys instead.
So you're prepared for any scenario, so to speak?
That's our aim.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Bjorn, once again, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me again.
And thank you for watching. Do make sure you keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV, as we'll be bringing you plenty more updates and exclusive interviews. Bye for now.